Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role Playing Gamers podcast. I'm Nathan, one of your hosts tonight, and I've also got Matt here with me. Say hello, Matt.
Hello, Matt.
And we've got a special edition of Between Two GMs for you tonight. We're doing that crazy thing we do where we interview other podcasts that you probably like more than ours on our show. It's a little suicidal, but at least they do something completely different. Dork Day Afternoon. I don't know a whole lot about whale dicks, but I'm excited to learn. I'm sorry, whale penises. So when did you guys first fall in love with whale penises? Sorry. I'm sorry.
At about the age of 17.
Off right there.
So yeah, Adam and Brian from Dork Day Afternoon, they have a TTRPG actual play podcast, and they right now they're running 2 different games. I don't know how they get it all done when it takes me 2 weeks just to finish one episode. But anyway, guys, welcome aboard. Introduce yourselves. So let's Adam, say hi, and Brian.
Hi, I'm Adam. Hi, thanks, Nathan and Matt. I'm the GM or referee on our Twilight 2000 game that we're running 2 past midnight. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm the lawful chaotic person of our podcast. I'm pretty much here for causing trouble and aggravating the GM as much as possible.
That is true. That is true.
When I play, that's my role, so I appreciate that.
Brian, I feel for you. We both have GMs in Adam and Nathan who never mess with the players, who take no pleasure in our sorrow. Not at all, right?
Actions have consequences.
So I edit the show, and I notice how much I laugh, and I actually edit out a lot. So anyone who listens, I actually edit out most of my laughter.
That's because it's inappropriate and in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's usually right after one of them like fails a roll, you know.
Always. I'm just giggling in the background like the Joker.
Adam, when we start with you, tell us how you started gaming, what got you involved in the whole thing.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I started way younger. Like when in the 80s, I was originally playing D&D, like as a kid, and kind of moved on to some other games like Shadowrun at one point. I had Gamma World, Top Secret SI, Twilight 2000 was one of the ones I played when I was younger, and just a assortment of different games at the time. And Star Frontiers, I don't know if you guys remember that one too.
Oh yeah.
Not the new whatever was happening with that one, but the the other one. And so I mean, I've played a lot when I was younger, and then like as I got older, I kind of drifted away from it a little bit, like later on in high school. And then like as a young adult, I was always still friends with people like that we could relate and talk about when we were younger and we played D&D and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until like about 8 years ago, a buddy of mine that I worked with was like, "Hey, I'm running a Pathfinder game." And I was like, "Dude, I'd love to play. I haven't played in forever." And then I just got sucked right back in. And pretty much that's been playing ever since. So
that's awesome. Well, what about you, Brian?
For me, it started quite a bit later because I'm younger than all of you guys. No, I
Humble
started
brag.
with.
What's so funny?
I started with Pathfinder 2E with Adam and his brother, and then once everybody kind of graduated and moved on, it was kind of a big dry spell. I mean, I still kind of stayed in the hobby and the nerd stuff. I mean, Heroescape and Hero Clicks and things like that kind of is what I ended up drifting towards. And then here, once the pandemic hit and stuff, and they went online because we were so spread out, we all kind of got back together doing it, and we were having such fun. We decided to start sharing it with everybody else.
So many pandemic actual play podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah. The sad thing is the first recording I did with that 4-track I showed you guys earlier. It was that that was the only recording of it. And it's actually our first episode of Encore the Lost, the Pathfinder game we were running. It was all just recorded on, and it was like,
wow.
And right then I was like my brother and I were like, yeah, we need to, this sucks. If we do this, we need to like actually like look into how to do this right. And yeah, everything else has been a learning curve after that. So
yeah, that first recording, I still had a headset mic. Like I didn't even actually have like a actual microphone. It was just what was still attached to my gamer headset.
Yeah.
We lost how many episodes did we lose? The first 2?
Yeah, I actually found a video of uneven. Like I posted a lost episode last year. I found another one, the one before that, just a video that I'm actually going to see if I can throw that up for our 2-year anniversary is April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So
nice.
so I might try and post that up and see. But anyway, so that's really not too different from us. So you've played a lot of D&D and Pathfinder. Are there other kind of less mainstream games that you really enjoy playing?
I mean, like right now, yes. I mean, there's a whole bunch that I don't know if there's a lot that I enjoy playing as much as there's a lot that I want to play, if that makes sense. Like I've got stacks of books over here that I'm like, I want to play Into the Odd. I want to play, Jeremy recently picked up that fishing one. Do you remember what that's called, Brian?
Fishblade?
No,
it's like the Merc Bore hack. That's like a fishing one.
Fist, Fury, and
Fiskborg
Reels.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's just like a fishing RPG, and we're like, that sounds amazing. I want to just like have a whole session where we're just sitting on a boat trying to catch bass. It just.
But if it's a Mork Borg one, isn't it going to be like fishing at the end of the world or something dark?
I think the rules are similar. I don't think it's like super dark. If I remember correctly, it's based off of like anime style, and so it's kind of like you're trying to like fish for this like. Like the big fish type thing,
Right. And then you fight a guy for 4 hours after talking about it.
I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you. Too. I'm going to fight you.
But yeah, I mean,
awesome.
Like some of the other games I really like right now is I love Delta Green. It's one of my favorite games that's out there. I just love the concept of it. Oh, God, it's so.
What do you like about it?
Well, I mean, it's probably partly because X-Files, and it's just like automatically in my head, like very similar to that. I like torturing PCs, I think. So it's kind of baked into the rules. It's kind of baked into the rules that you slowly drive them mad. It's like their character either dies or goes insane. And it's like, that's kind of cool. I like that. No, I mean, it's just because I was always a fan of things like The Thing and, those kind of movies like that era. And to me, it kind of like fits into that genre. And I don't know. I love horror. So
yeah, it's still one of my favorites. Just I love it simply because it's almost no holes barred as far as going into that game. There's nothing you can't do. I mean, you can pretty much say whatever you want to do, and you're going to do it. And most of the things aren't even tied to a dice roll. It's just go do it and find out what happens.
That's kind of what makes me appreciate the free league games. We don't always do a great job at it, but the idea of just tell me what you want to do, then I'll tell you what dice to roll. Because we both grew up playing D&D, especially like a lot of the other guys in the group. We played a lot of different games, but we have this bad habit sometimes of drifting into, okay, I'm going to roll stealth, or I'm going to, and instead of say, okay, I'm going to hide. Where is there a place where I can hide? And so, okay, there's a rock over there you can hide. It's like, okay, I'm going to try and hide over there. Well, and so, okay, you hide, fine. You don't need to roll anything, or they can still probably see you. So make a stealth check. So I like that kind of attitude rather than, just always reaching for the dice. I like rolling dice, but I like, Anyway.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that drew me to Twilight 2000 in the first place. And part of the reason why I was like, I want to do this as a podcast was because it had more of that, like baked in. It had the ability to have more of a free form, like storytelling, and not have it be like, okay, you want to climb? How high are you climbing? Blah, blah, blah. Like you didn't have to break everything down mathematically. It was just like, roll stamina, and like move on, and because before this, like we were talking about, we'd played a lot of Pathfinder, and I ran like a Starfighter campaign for like 4 years, right? And I mean, I enjoyed it. I love science fiction, and I took the characters from like 1 to 20, but I was like, okay, I'm good. And then like, let's try something else, you know? And I don't know. Yeah, and that was one of the things that drew me to the new version of it was that one, I always loved the setting. Like growing up, I was like, this is amazing. Like this is such a, because I was like, you know, Mad Max and, you know, Red Dawn, like smashed into one thing was like, that's freaking great. And then, yeah, when I started like reading through the rules after I got the PDFs, I was like, everything here is so intuitive. It's not like even the combat's crunchy for the Year Zero engine. I know this now, but for me at the time, I was like, this is so straightforward and so like fast and loose, you know, like looking at more Year Zero stuff. It's the crunchier of them, I think. But
it's definitely, yeah. Especially when you get into like the urban stuff. Mm-hmm. It gets a little more.
Oh gosh, no, we don't. Nope. I'm not talking about the urban stuff. No, I have urban operations PTSD. We don't talk about.
Yeah, it probably took me about 3 or 4 sessions of Twilight 2000 to kind of get into the right mindset of, okay, I just need to decide what happens here and you know, is try to, you know, instead of trying to, you know, go do everything by the book, I just make a decision and that's it. And it was just, it went so much smoother and everybody, I think, had a lot more fun once I let go a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, I want to build a fire. Yeah, go build a fire. That's fine. Let's move on. This part doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, but it is funny, though, because like it's little things that catch you in that game, right? So how many times have you guys had ants?
Too many for Chris. Too many.
So it's free form, but it is a brutal system. Mm-hmm, and again, I guess maybe this would be a good time just to tell us a little bit about the 2 Past Midnight for those who don't know. Well, it's about the campaign, but sort of the story in general, where, what you guys have been doing.
Sure. Well, there was part of me that wanted to start it in a different place than the normal campaign starts, because it's pretty standard that like Kalish, it starts here and like you're part of the 5th Infantry, blah blah blah, and that's cool and it's freaking great. But I wanted to do something that wasn't quite in the same spot, in the same location, that was like a little bit further off. And so I'd come up somewhere with the idea of like them being POWs. And it was because there was a line in a book about them being prisoners, and I was like, that'd be really cool. And it was like, well, what if they were POWs? And then it just kind of like spiraled from there. And I had my daughter pick a spot on the map. So it's her fault. She's 4 years old. It's her fault that they started as far east as they did. Yeah. So the idea was they, start off in a POW camp, and I don't know how much I want to give away the first episode, because it kind of like, I liked the way it like built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was just kind of, I thought it would be a neat way to start it from there. And then once they leave the prison camp, I thought it'd be interesting if the characters didn't know how things had been going, you know what I mean? Like they'd been months, at this prison camp, and that way the story could evolve and like inform the audience of like Operation Reset, and like we could build those things and the lore into the plot. So that was kind of why we did it that way. But
they haven't really revealed to us what. Free League hasn't revealed to us what they plan for Operation Reset. There are some hints. But have you made your own Operation Reset, or are you going off of like an older book? Or?
Well, see, now we're going to dive too far into like my strategy on GMing, which is like leave stuff just specific enough that I can play with it, but vague enough that I don't have to commit. I can kind of like roll with it, and I don't have to like write everything out ahead of time. I can like adjust things, you know what I mean? Like, so that they make more sense in the moment. So it's kind of much more sandboxing on my side too, because I'm using the encounter cards to kind of like build everything around. Right. And then I go, okay, well, here's this encounter card. What does that mean? If this is here, how's that connected to this? And how's that connected to that? And then I just kind of start connecting the dots. So
I totally agree. The encounter cards worked out amazingly well. I pulled some random bullshit and found ways to make it work with my plot line, and it turned out far better than what I was planning. So
right, it's like you just pull a card and you're like, well, this is weird, but okay, I guess this is what happens here.
Yeah, I've never played in a game because I never is it Forgotten Lands or Forbidden Lands? I've never played in a game where it's like, here's a map. Well, not a role-playing game. It hasn't literally since been the old Ultima games, right? Where it's like, here's your map, go out. I was so used to a lot of like, your Final Fantasy, a lot of that stuff is very much like follow the path, do exactly the quests, but just this whole open world idea. And I think that what really got me about the new Twilight 2000 was just like, because like as a GM, like I don't know how Nathan had a story, but at the same time, it's very much like he had no idea if we were going to be like, let's go north, let's go south, let's go. It's completely that kind of discovery and randomness was pretty cool. And I don't know for a player, Brian, how does that like open world? How does that is that comforting or is it scary?
Both. I mean, it's nice to have that ability to know that the GM can't, kind of railroad you into like extreme encounters. Like, hey, you keep along this path, you're going to a red dragon, whether you want to or not. That's where you're headed. Here you go. But with this, there's a bit of a ability for us, the players, to throw just random stuff at him to where he has to kind of just adjust, adapt, or relay the railroad tracks to get us to where he wants us to go. Like I said, it's my job as the chaotic good character to make sure that he is on his toes to at least trying to kill us.
Brian, why don't you tell us about your character in the Twilight 2000 game, and why don't you tell us about the other characters too from the point of your character?
But in Emmett's voice.
Oh yeah.
All right, young blood. I'm Emmett. I've seen a lot of things, been through a lot of battles, tired of killing, but killing seems to be what I'm good at. I'm looking for my son Keanu, and I'll do anything in the world to find him. The rest of these guys are dicks. Murph and Cole, they're hardened by war. They're hard to deal with, but they are very useful to my cause. And then Youngblood, he's got a good heart, but I don't know that he has a heart for battle. I kind of took him under my wing as almost like a brother or son. And we keep plugging away through battle, but it seems like every step we take, it's 2 steps back. It's a nightmare over here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's hard to not. So right. So for anyone who's been listening, they know, right? They know all the stuff. I haven't listened to the new one yet, right? But the most recent drop, I don't think. But for those who all know, there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about, right? Because we don't want to spoil. But I will say that, at least for me as a listener, I will say that the character of Emmett has become so, like, there's certain, like in our games too, we'll have like characters that just for whatever reason kind of stand out. And Emmett's character, by the luck of the dice, by there's just like, it seems that there's almost nothing he can't pull out of his ass and complete. Right. No matter how hard things look, it's like it's one die roll away from, well, that's 4 successes. Right. So I don't know. I don't know if you're aware of that. This is the fan portion of it, right? Where it's like, no, I would say Emmett's definitely been a character. You talk about being the chaotic good. I would agree also with the listeners, like Emmett seems to be the moral compass largely of the group, considering you've got quite a variety of cast of characters.
Yeah, and part of that came about because like early on, like the part of the rules of Twilight 2000 is it has like the moral codes and the big dream, right? And so he was like, his big dream is to find his son. And then he came up with the name Keanu. I was like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing. That is fucking great. Thank you. Because it was like, I had a chart where they rolled randomly to see what state they were from, and he rolled Hawaii, and so it was like, oh, Keanu, I was like, oh my God, of course it's Keanu. And it's like, it wouldn't have been a big thing when he named him in 70, whatever, 78 or 79. But then, so he had that as his big dream. And I was like, well, that's a really easy thing to kind of tweak. And, if it's like, if he's over here, I just decide he's with this unit and then boom, go from there, and it just kind of turned into Emmett's been definitely the moral compass of the group. And it has a lot with the religiousness that Brian's been putting into the character. Like that kind of plays into it. And I appreciate that as a referee because it affords me the opportunity to create situations where he has to make those tough choices on that. And that's what's cool about that. That's because that's the cool thing about the game too, is that's baked into the mechanics, is the moral dilemmas and the big dreams and, that all of that. And I don't know. That's kind of my take on it.
I've found, when we play, we can be pretty chaotic a lot of times. We just goof off a lot. But but when you're playing a modern game, like kind of in our general era, I found that the players really they didn't turn into murder hobos. They found a code for the players. Like Sean was probably the biggest moral compass for our game.
Yeah, he was our Emmett, our military badass.
Yeah, and he made some tough decisions, and I just set things up. I had no idea what he was going to do. So these sandbox games, like for me as a GM, are super great because like I have no idea what's going to happen. I've got like 5 plot points, and hopefully you're going to get to all of them, but just let them talk and let the kind of some of the randomness take some of that control away from you, and they really dove in and surprised the hell out of me. I was like on the edge of my seat too. So how's that, Adam, for you? Does that work the same way with you, or you
have they surprised you?
Yeah, no, there's been quite a few times they've surprised me with their choices where I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this, and I'm trying to think if there was a really good example of that, where they just did a thing and I was like, I didn't expect you guys to do this, but okay. I can't think of anything like offhand. I think it's probably happened too many times that they do the thing that I don't expect them to do, because it's in my head. I'm like, that's the dumb thing. Why would you do that? And then they do it, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Yeah, like for example, there was one episode where I had a character from their past show up, and I kind of wasn't 100% sure if they were going to kill him or not, because I was like, I don't know. Well, I'm kind of rolling the dice on this one. Like they might just kill this guy, and they kind of surprised me with that reaction. I'm not disappointed that they didn't kill him, but
they are.
They probably are now. They probably are. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different than I'm used to, because like I was saying, I ran Starfinder for a long time, and I was planning every little detail of that, and that campaign kind of started with, I was like, okay, here's the big bad guy at the end, blah, and it was like, and then I had to like build to it because it was still homebrew. But then like in between there, I was running an Iron Gods campaign for Pathfinder. So that's also, it's like, it's laid out, you know what I mean? It's like, here's the story. And I don't know, it's refreshing to have it be where I have to respond and like improvise based off of what they're doing and the choices they make. Like, there's one character that just leaves at one point, because he's just like, fuck this, I'm out, and just like goes off. And I didn't see that coming. I was like, I didn't know that was going to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, it happens constantly, really. It happens a lot where they totally throw me for a loop and I don't know what to make of it, and I have to just improvise and run with it.
So how do you deal with the deadliness of the game?
Hold on, no, he doesn't deal with the deadliness of the game. That is a player issue right there. All right, Brian, the players deal with it.
Brian, how do you deal with the deadliness of the game?
As soon as you sit down and grab a handful of Twilight dice, you have to just be very comfortable that the next time that they roll, you could die. You just have to reach that point. Because even with Emmett, like everybody has honestly, we're all shocked that any of us has made it to this many episodes. as deadly as the system can be.
Mm.
And honestly, I mean, there has been at least more than a dozen times that by all rights I should have died. But the dice just smiled on me enough to allow me to go to the next thing. So, I mean, this whole system is, I mean, to me, just one giant panic attack through the whole thing.
Have you played something this deadly before?
No, not by any chance. The biggest thing with Twilight, no
2000.
magical healing. Yes,
Right.
Twilight 2000 is there.
Twilight 2000,
No
not glittery
clerics.
vampires. Yeah.
There is no magical healing. There is no like, hey, this just fixes whatever. You can even come back from death. No, it's instantaneous, permanent, right now kind of death.
Yeah, Brian, I'll agree. Is playing in Nathan's game, I would say every single time we entered combat, no matter how minor, it was the same thing, right? Because I would say that Twilight 2000 rewards good play, smart play.
Mm-hmm.
If you use cover, if you take advantage of the things you can, you will increase your chances. But there's nothing stops the die from just rolling, and it's not forgiving.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way every single encounter. But in some ways, that's good because I find in some campaigns, I'll kind of flip this around as a GM to Nathan's player. Nathan's character in my Dungeons and Dragons game literally is constantly trying to get themselves killed. And part of that is because the system is just so hard to die in.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of things in our Twilight game where, you know, I think as players, we made the wise choice to allow someone who had the upper hand on us. And we didn't just like, well, we're the PCs. We're always going to win. Let's fight them. You know, we capitulated, and we did probably what was the more realistic thing because there was no way we could have survived, you know, not, you know.
Yeah,
so no, I think it.
You mean
it's
like surrender because
right?
the
I'm
odds
with
are
you,
against
Brian.
you?
It's terrifying. Yeah.
Surrender because the odds are massively against you instead of being like,
Oh, you know, there's 5 guys with machine guns and you're all kneeling on the ground. You know, it's like, do you fight back or you let them take your shit?
You let them take your shit.
Yeah.
But no room for barbarians in Twilight 2000.
Right, you can't rage. You're gonna rage, right?
The interesting thing is I think that's part of the reason what drew me to the game in the first place, because I could relate to it on a certain level because I was in the military and I was a Navy corpsman, which is like the medics that are stationed with the Marine Corps, and I was with a Marine Corps infantry platoon. And so my experience ends up coming through sometimes because I was never like, yo, let's go charge this machine gun nest and kill him. I was like, this is how you get hurt and I have to work. Like, I don't want to work. Don't make me do more work. You know, so like that thought process of how deadly every single thing could be was always in the back of my head. And so I've tried to, like, I don't know, push that neuroses on everybody else, I guess.
How many of your cast are there? Because I think is it Jeremy? Is he?
Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah.
It kind of definitely comes through. I just didn't know. Are you and Jeremy the only military or?
Jeremy and I and Chris. Chris was in the Army. Jeremy was in the Marine Corps, and I was in Navy Corpsman. So,
nice. Yeah, it was one of our only first complaints we ever got was it was about one of the other cast members was saying, "Oh, you need some military people on your podcast doing the military," and I didn't know because and we actually do have a couple folks who are or were a long time ago, but so I didn't know how that colored how you run or play or not.
But it definitely colored how I play it, but it's also part of the reason why I chose the game in the first place, because I went in in 97, right? Like that was the year I enlisted. And I was stationed with 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines in the year 2000. And I was looking at the map in Sweden, went, holy shit, I'm right there. You know, and it just like, it changed for me, like what the game was, you know, like I remembered it from being a kid and it was this like, in a sense, it was a fantasy world still. Yeah. You know, it was like Red Dawn. It was like these things. It was a movie, you know, and then at that moment I was like, I know these guys. Like I could make NPCs out of this entire battalion, because I know all of them.
Yeah.
And it changed it. It changed how I like saw the game and how I was like, I know how I would run this game. I know exactly how I would run it. So it definitely informed it. But yeah. And that's I think it comes from that, in my head at least.
I think people can tell, except for that one guy couldn't tell that we did. But I think when you're running and you've got people, at least some of the cast have some experience in just the way you talk and the vernacular and for this type of game, it really adds a lot of flavor because you don't have that like. In Pathfinder D&D, so go, I used to be a barbarian and I lived in the
I used to be a
woods.
wizard, right?
So like modern games just really have a different feel. I like everything, but I'll play it whatever. But it was really refreshing to play a modern game like this, and I'm sure that's probably why people listen to you is probably like us. You probably have quite a few military listeners with military experience, and they're kind of reliving some stuff, and they might be going, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Oh, what? They're so stupid. Why are they doing it that way?
That's not what this part of the tank is called. I'm like, I was never in a tank. I don't know, man. I was sleeping in mud holes.
I didn't look up any like pictures of the interior of a Bradley until like after we were done filming. It has a ramp in the back. If I had known that,
I've been totally different.
yeah. Maybe next time. So you're not just doing Twilight 2000.
Right.
You are the only podcast I know that is double fisting it in real time.
Really, Nathan?
Like alcohol. That's, get your mind out of
I mean, honestly, we put the Encore of the Lost show on a hiatus for right now. So it's kind of like, and that's because real life things happen. And, sometimes people don't have the time to commit to things anymore. So it's kind of on pause, and, but I also still wanted to play all these other games. So we've been recording Cyborg recently. We're playing a playthrough of that right now. We probably still have another session this week. I think, Brian, is one recording, right? Isn't that this week? Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to record again this week. And hopefully that should be coming out pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, I still want to play more games, but then it ends up being like, who's doing the editing and who's doing what. And so as of right now, we just have the one show, and I wish we were doing, more shows, but we all have full-time jobs and, full-time lives and whatnot. And so it's hard to, balance that sometimes. So,
yeah, it's a lot, editing is a pretty tedious process because you play for 2 hours. You actually have to listen
6, maybe 8.
Right. It's about 3 to 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we both edit separately. I don't know if you do all the. I do like a first. Well, Nathan does some technical stuff, and then I do what I call production edits.
It was technically be called spotting.
I think we call that clicks and bumps because we're not professionals.
So he's doing more of the story editing. So he's marking and say, okay, this is too much table talk, or this is too much rolling dice or looking up rules, and I can just cut all that stuff out. And so he's doing.
My number one edit is overtalk.
Yep.
I have to literally listen and go, okay, who's actually talking about the storyline and who's just blah, and I have to like tell him mute this person, right? And then sort of. I don't touch any of the audio though.
Yeah.
Nathan doesn't let me actually touch it. I can mark it, but I can't touch it.
It's a beautiful relationship. I want to stay that
That's
way.
right.
So, but yeah, so how do you guys divvy up? The responsibilities for producing the show?
Well, usually what we do is we'll get everyone's recording first of all, and then at this point, like I'll run it for 2 Past Midnight. I'll run it through we have like macros set up for Audacity to just kind of like run everything through. And then depending on what Brian has going on, if he's able to, if he can for that week or not, we have what's called clicks and bumps, which is where you go through and literally edit out like or like someone hit the mic or whatever,
Yep.
like those things. And then I'll go through and do all the story editing and like put the music in and kind of go from there. But and yeah, shift around over talk and cut out whole sections where it's like, this is dumb. Doesn't need to be there. But I also do think that a lot of times the rules need to be there because, and this is just somewhere along the way, I had this idea that there's two stories that happen within it. There's like the story that's happening in the game, and then there's the story of us playing the game. And like those are both kind of part of the story. And it's almost like the making of and the movie all happening at the same time, And
I think that's one of the cool things about, so everyone's got their own opinions. So mine is like actual play. So we edit things that we just think like
no one wants to hear this.
Right. We'll spend, if we have to spend 10 minutes figuring out what the initiative order is, we'll often just come back to it. But the actual play should feel like you're actually listening to people play. You have to be careful. Like we definitely don't edit to the point where we're not an audio drama. Right. And I think that we try to spare people, some of the less interesting aspects of looking things up and stuff. But yeah, no, it should feel like people playing.
Yeah, I think we kept a lot more of it in for Twilight 2000 because one, we were playing like mostly the alpha rules,
the beta,
and then eventually the beta rules. So there was no page numbers or anything, but we kind of like the idea that, okay, this is something that people haven't played yet. They might want to really hear how that goes. So we left a lot of that stuff in. For the D&D, everybody knows what a fireball does. That's we're not. Nobody needs to read out what a spell does.
Right.
So that shit's just cutting out. I'm just cutting out all that shit out because everybody already does. But Twilight 2000, or if we switch to another game, like when we play Alien, we leave a lot of that stuff in just because they may be thinking about playing this game and they want to see how this is going to fit in with my group. So I mean, I think that's one of the big reasons why people watch shows like yours and ours is they want to try out the game in their heads and go to their friends and say, hey, this actually sounds pretty fun. I think I can run this, So I think that's a big, draw for shows like ours. So.
Right. And yeah. And like my brother and I had talked about that. It's like, it's still an actual play. It's not just a radio drama. Cause there's been a few times he's had to push me back from the radio drama side of it. Cause if it were just me, I'd be trying to make like fucking Paths of Glory or something like that. And so he has to kind of like rein me in sometimes. And that was kind of when I had that idea of like, there's two stories happening. There's the making of table, and then there's the like in my head story, But yeah, and I agree. Like it's still an actual play. It's still playing the game. And I think sometimes like the rules can be interesting and dramatic if you like play up the drama of the rule and how important that rule is at that moment. It's like, this is where it is right now. This one die roll is it, and like, I think that's interesting. And like, so yeah, it's 100%. The rules are very important for it.
How did you guys like the character creation process? Or did you use templates, or did you go through the cycles?
The life path? Yeah, we did the life path method, and that was mostly because I thought that was interesting. I thought it'd be cool to just play it out that way, and it gave me an excuse to have our session 0 be called Life Paths of Glory, because I thought that was funny, and I love that movie so much.
Did you have any surprises? Like,
all of
did
it.
anyone start? That's what I'm saying, because I know I ended up playing a different character than I was going to, because just the way the die. So I just don't know. Brian, did you set out to be a complete and utter badass?
No. Well, I mean, as we've seen, the dice is what has made me a badass. No, starting out, I just kind of went with it. I mean, and honestly, I didn't expect to make it as far in the life path as I did. I think I made it to like 7 or 8 successes in. Like I made it way further than I should. So I was way older than I thought I would be when it ended.
Right.
And then Adam added the extra mechanic of roll where you're from. So when it was all said and done, like, I mean, I had my strength, stamina, close combat, that whole column was maxed. Heavy artillery, like the heavy firearms, all that was maxed out. And when I rolled Hawaii at that point, immediately Dog the Bounty Hunter popped in my head. so that's
edit
really
that, edit that. Cut his mic.
Oh, wait, it has completely changed my view now. I got to recalibrate because I honestly,
that's where
Who's
Emmett
the guy?
started from.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I got that's a total visual recalibration because I think in my head, do you remember? Oh my gosh, Gene Hackman. It was one of the first like POW kind of movies that came out. Yeah, it's before Chuck Norris and all them started doing Missing in Action. They did like it was like one of the first like Vietnam movies
first
where they
Missing
were
in Action with the rat thing's fucking terrifying. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, there's a guy in there who's like gruff and he's got like this grenade around his neck, and they always ask him, why do you wear a
Uncommon
grenade?
Valor?
Uncommon Valor. Yeah. And he's like, and he's the rough guy. And he's always like, if life gets too crappy, I'll just pull the pin and find out what comes next, So that's sort of that's been now I'm dog. Now it's Dog the Bounty Hunter. Thanks.
Oh,
so
man.
I know it's in hiatus, but just if you want to give a quick shout out about Encore the Lost. And the only reason I'm asking sort of is, so I started to listen to yours, and I had also tried, I started to listen to somebody else doing that story.
Mhm.
Both times just real life got in the way, but an incredibly cool concept.
Mhm.
So I may let folks know kind of the idea behind that AP if they're interested.
So Encore the Lost, that was the name of our show, but the actual AP,
the actual AP.
the actual AP is for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's dang it,
Extinction Curse.
Extinction Curse. Thank you. And all the characters start off as circus performers, and there's a murder. I'm not giving anything away. It happens in the first scene of the AP. No spoilers. And then but it's like the murder of their ringmaster, right? Like they're, the guy that runs the circus. And so then you have to cope with, there's a show you have to put on, and then you have to put on the show as part of the AP. And then it's then solve the murder and see what happened. I can't go too far into the details because I don't know. I wasn't the GM for it. It was my brother. He would know way more about the finer details of it. But that was one of the things we thought was interesting. And it was kind of, I think it was probably Brian and I that pushed Jeremy towards that one specifically, because as soon as it was like, hey, there's a circus one, I was like, that's amazing. I want to play in a circus so bad. I already have a character idea. And but yeah, I mean, it's just a really cool idea to have characters that are in a circus, because one, it allows you to come up with just a weird character, and then two, it gives you the opportunity to have characters. As far as an AP, it's you move from point to point because you're traveling around as a circus. So it lends itself to probably that type of storytelling anyway, because you get to have a reason why they're moving, and not just staying in one place. But so it's all investigating a murder and, trying to figure out what's going on in this weird small town.
About how many episodes did you guys get in?
32, 33.
That's pretty
Hold
good.
on. Yeah, we got about 2/3 of the way through the first book. And like I said, life kind of happens, and we kind of had to put that on hold for a while. Not bad things, just life in general. Some good things and whatnot.
It's been we've got all of that right now. It's
So we definitely, our approach has been very much I'd say short runs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of a little jealous of, in some ways, the long format. So you're how many episodes into Two Past Midnight?
I think 39 was this week, and 40 is next week. Yeah, so we're right. 39 just released on whatever yesterday was, the 20th.
Eventually, I want to play Twilight 2000 again. So when are you guys stopping so I can?
Well, right. So do you see it? Do you see this being, or do you have it planned? So this is going to. How long do you think the story that you guys are going to tell this? Is this a long-term story? Some of these APs, for running an AP, they go hundreds of episodes, right? Or do you have a story arc that you're looking to complete or to move on or?
Well,
Yes,
mean,
Adam, please do tell.
see, Brian's here, and I don't want him to know this.
Okay.
Brian, take off your headphones.
He's not listening. I'm sure none of the other guys will listen either.
It's ending next week. Sorry, man.
Sorry, it's done. It's done. Another nuke just drops out of nowhere. And poof, gone. Everyone's dead. It's the Twilight 2000 version of Rock's Fall. Everyone dies. No, I kind of have an idea of like what I want to do, and I have like a point of where it would end, and it's probably further than most people think. But it's also that like I've constantly thought of everything as mini arcs within it. So even then, like we're in the middle of like a larger arc, and I kind of have like other arcs after that. You know what I mean? That I'm kind of thinking about that I think would be interesting. And that's just because, and I think I joked about this online, like in like posts and whatnot before about like how the world's a big place. And I think that it is, you know what I mean? Like the game historically focuses on Poland and like the army in Poland, you know, and I don't know, there's a lot of other stuff that can happen. And even like the first and second edition had like, you get back to the States now, you know, and it had those things. And I think it'd be interesting to explore those ideas, maybe not in that same way, maybe something like Jericho style or like,
yeah.
So
yeah.
These are just, I don't know. None of this stuff's happened yet, but you know, you could put it anywhere. Like you could put this game in anywhere in the world and just be like, here you go. And it changes the tone if it's not military. Because I do think that as much as a lot of the people that probably do listen are former military, and it is kind of a big focus of the game, and you know, at least 3/5 of us were in the military, I don't think it's exclusively like a military setting. It just happens to be, I don't know. It's not the only thing that defines the game as far as I'm concerned. It's much more about that struggle for survival and finding a place in the world. And, you know, I think that's where the real story is. It just happens to be who the focus is.
I totally agree with you. And that's when I started the game, I said, okay, let's think more Walking Dead than anything else. And if I ever do run this again with those characters, it's gonna, I warned them already, it's gonna get fucking weird.
So you're gonna bring in dark conspiracies and like,
well, I was pushing him. I thought it'd be cool because we love. So if you haven't played Aliens yet, it's a fantastic system.
Yeah.
The stress mechanic there is amazing.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, when you start playing, it's the best your character's going to be, and it all goes downhill from there. And I know, Brian, you're talking about the fear of like the dice. When the stress goes up, compared. Anything you do, you're rolling those stress dice, you could freak out at any time. Like they've mastered this mechanic because of you can't really be afraid. You're not going to get eaten by an alien for real, but their mechanic is stressful that as a player, it's great. You get to have some, but I thought a crossover would be great.
And maybe that's what I'm going to do.
You might do it. There was a guy online on Twitter the other day saying they should do a V.
Yeah.
Yes.
Twilight 2000 crossover would be awesome.
Well, that'd almost be like, and I'm just thinking about rules wise, that'd be kind of like if you take more of the structure of the way Blade Runner's set up and like smash it in with Twilight 2000, that might, you could get that tone of V with it. But yeah.
Yeah. So I really like the flexibility of the year zero.
Yeah. So Brian, if you find any giant egg sacs, don't have Emmett look in there.
no, giant cabbages.
Giant cabbages.
No, we have a character who touches things that he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love that character too. It would not be without telling. So that character, he reminds me of a real life kid. This is one of those like, so when we were getting ready to go over to the Middle East, they issued us these little smart books, right? This is about Iraq. And this is ages ago. And this kid, my buddy Dale, said the kid came to him and said, "Hey Sarge," and he goes, "Hey Sarge, I got this book. How do I protect it?" And Dale was like, "Oh, you just put it in a Ziploc bag." And he said the kid looked at him kind of bewildered and said, "Well, Sarge, how do I read it then?" so I love that character. That's who I picture in my head as that young kid from like, way back when. Every time he talks, I'm like, yep. He's got his smart book in a Ziploc bag. Can't figure out how to read it.
That's awesome. that's the kind of thing, like, I don't have any military experience, but that's the kind of thing you get when you have people, if you have a game with some military stuff in it and you have players with some of that experience, you get some of that flavor. I am 52 years old and I just found out about smart books. So
there you go. Well, and I think that's why I played a civilian character. I wanted, like you said, I thought that the story is clearly more than just, because war affects more than just soldiers. It's all those people who get caught, right? And so I thought it was kind of interesting that most of us played just people trying to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it does lend itself to a variety.
And like Nathan has said earlier about Walking Dead, and now it's like, well, now Free League's making a Walking Dead game, and it's like,
and they're using a different dice mechanic. It's like, well, why don't you just use the Twilight 2000 dice mechanic?
I know.
Really, you're killing me.
It kind of looked like it was closer to the Aliens one from like what I was, and that's, I don't know because I haven't seen any of the rules, but just judging from like the dice, like that kind of looks like it's more like that. But yeah, I
think so too. So you're gonna do a cyborg? Is this short run? I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be a short run, probably 3 or 4 episodes is kind of what we're looking at.
Lined up after that, or
I don't know yet. I know we're gonna run Delta Green again in the summer because we've kind of decided, for a really weird inside joke reason, that September we always do Delta Green. So that'll be, we're gonna do another one then. In between there, we'll probably play something else. I just don't know what yet at this point. Okay. It'll probably be whatever we,
Just let me know so we don't play the same thing. And
we'll see. You guys have already got me a couple times. I'm like, damn it, I want to do that next. Damn it, I want to do that next.
I guess the live thing, we're trying to sprinkle in some stuff I haven't been able to get to the table.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's really kind of up in the air what our next story is. But we have a few more D&D episodes left for us to edit, and then a ton of Aliens episodes. So whatever we're going to record in the next few weeks isn't going to come out until like December. So,
okay. Yeah, we have our podcast has the most out of time references because it's like 18 months later.
I mean, it works for the title, right? I mean, it's
it really does. Really,
it's like a year late. It's like, that's from like 2003. Yeah,
that's right.
Our last episode, I think, was a Christmas episode from a year and a half ago. So
I wonder why Malcolm had the little hat he had the little snow hat on. Yeah.
Well, that's like, you guys were doing Death in Space, and I was like, damn it, I wanted to do that one next. And so I'm like, I'll toss that off for a year or two. I'll do that later.
You know what? But I think with those kinds of games, we got really good feedback on that just from the live, and like, not edited it at all, and in mediocre audio. And that did pretty well considering. I think if you did like a podcast version of it, I think you'd probably get, marketing wise, if you want to get some more listeners, I think you get some folks for that.
So we were originally, my plan was to do Death in Space as one of our stories. But it was Nathan's idea because we literally were sitting on we've begun sitting on so many different games that this kind of rapid fire idea to do some short, and it's okay. I always say it's okay to imitate. So we look at and I'll just throw it out there. It's like Glass Cannon has the Who Dis, right? It's a great series, right? Love that series. It was really great when they did one on Twilight 2000.
It was,
because we got all the sloppy seconds.
Right?
Thanks for only doing 3 episodes, Glass Cannon. So that's kind of what we were trying to do with this, but but as my original was a whole story, and I think that the Death in Space is kind of it's a very cool setting. We also looked at Vast Grim. I think you guys would like that too. It's another sort of dark. There's a trend coming out of Free League of very dark.
There is,
yeah.
So
they need a lighthearted game.
Well, that's why I've been joking about this one with my brother, and I might be giving away the next big game. But if someone wants to make it, be my guest. I've been joking about Birthday Borg for a while now, where it's like you're at a birthday party and you don't really die. You just have to go home. You know what I mean? Like you like you pee your pants or like your clothes get too wet. But it's like, but you just use like that rule set, and it's like all the dangers of like a young kid birthday party.
All right, Nathan, take notes. No,
it's fine. I don't have the time to write it anyway. Take it.
So my other Borg idea, let's see if you get it, is Tingleborg.
Oh
God, what?
Chuck
what is
Tingle? Are you sure Chuck Tingle?
So if you've never heard of Chuck Tingle, look him up. He is a legitimate author who's written all these books, but the titles are really weird.
Tingle?
And he actually has the Tingleverse. He created a role-playing game.
Yeah. Based on.
There are, yeah.
They're all.
It's an adult podcast, so
my
Nathan,
God.
you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I see where you're going with this.
So a lot of pounded in the butt by inanimate
All right.
objects.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Really strange.
So I wanted to merge Tingleverse with Morkborg and
Tingleborg.
Tingleborg.
Well, then that's also like the Tingler with the old Vincent Price movie where they had the things that came up and they tickled people in the back of it. Wasn't that what it was called? The Tingler, or was it the Tickler? I don't remember.
I gotta look that up.
I love
that
this.
sounds very Vincent Price.
It was a Vincent Price movie, and like they did this thing in the theater where random chairs had like a little like bzz, like a little buzzer in it, so that people would like freak out, like, and they're like, "Oh, it's God,"
The Tingler in 1959.
Yeah.
Oh, so they were doing like messing with like the smell-o-vision kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like the 4D before 4D was a thing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that's a cool idea. And I think that's kind of fun when you've got these light rule sets, because you can really take them and do anything you want with them and just have fun.
Well, and that was like, there was the other idea I had was like a hack for Merc Borg, where it's like the hero version of it, where it's like your character doesn't have hit points, which means they can't die. You can do whatever you want, And that's basically my way of making fun of people that complain about their characters dying. So,
which never happens at all, right? Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh.
And I do want to say, for people that haven't listened, because if you actually count the death toll of PCs in my game, like there hasn't been that many. Like it's not like I'm slaughtering PCs every episode, and nor am I the kind of GM that like that's my goal is to kill PCs. I just think interesting story, and sometimes in a deadly system that happens. But it really for me and I've engaged way too much in some of the Twitter drama. But I look at it as like, if you look at any like good action or fantasy or hero games, they have these terrible things happen to them all the time. The consequences of their actions that have caused it, or things not even their own fault. But like, so what happened? Thor lost an eye and lost his hammer. What's her name? Romanov died, and this was like people die in these movies, and people go, they shouldn't have done that. That's terrible. But it makes it. You got to feel the danger, and it makes like when they actually finally succeed or win or take the bad guy, it makes that so much sweeter. Like I want, like when I run, I want my players to look like that South Park meme. It's like, I ain't heard no bell, like a bloody bruise. Yeah.
I want them to win, but I want them to feel like they've earned it.
Like every inch of that victory, right? Yeah.
Crawl
I
through
agree.
glass. I'm gonna make them. I'm gonna cheer for them as they do these things, and I'll be sad if they end up dying. But I think it's just so much more interesting and so much more compelling and so much more dramatic and a heck of a lot of fun for everybody. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a lot like the difference between, I keep going back to movies because that's just my thing. Like it's the difference between like Commando, and like Die Hard. Like Die Hard's a way more interesting movie, or even Commando and Predator. You know what I mean? Like Predator's a way more interesting movie because like he might not win. I mean, it's still Arnold, and you're like, okay, fine, it's Arnold, but like, it.
But you like all those other characters,
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's more interesting that way if they have to like barely make it. Or Rocky. he didn't win in the first one.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
spoiler alert. Sorry, might want to cut that.
Yeah.
In case someone hasn't seen a movie that came out
You
in
guys
70,
are all
whatever.
like, throwing out these spoilers.
Yeah, sorry.
So I always throw out Empire Strikes Back, but
my favorite one of the original trilogy, but yeah.
Well, and with you two sadists, the way that you're talking, I mean, you guys are actually you guys are the Saw movie. Like, I want you to win, but if you have cut your own hand off to do so, then you did your own hand. It doesn't make you less monsters.
Yeah, I think if you include deaths, disappearances, maimings, poisonings, irradiated dinners, animal side, right? There's a lot of Trail of Tears in that episode.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I plead the fifth.
Well, and we're 40 episodes in at this point, but we were actually just talking last time that we got together. It's like we're only like less than 3 weeks of actual time traveled in game. And it's like, oh, this has been just a nightmare.
and I've got like little X's to mark each hex they've been in, and they've traveled. Like if you draw a straight line between the points, like 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, like from point A to point B as the crow flies. They've just zigzagged, and it's yeah.
I'm going to do if I end up doing it again, I'm going to do a little time jump just to say, okay, it's been more than a week.
Everybody roll percentiles for your stuff. Let's just estimate it.
Well, I think when we left off, a couple of them had like radiation poisoning they were dealing with. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that stuff. Well, but all those little things are no joke in that game. But that's But that's the magic traps of the game. You know, that's the stuff that's like, or the curses or things like that. Like they exist in the other games. It's just for some reason, because it's in a much more like realistic setting, it makes it, I don't know, somehow feel darker than, like, for example, we're okay with slaughtering hordes of orcs. You know what I mean?
Right,
but like, if you just did the same thing and they were humans, people would get kind of touchy about it. I'm not saying we should slaughter humans. I'm saying like, there's a weird divide sometimes in RPGs where people are like, it's okay to kill all these goblins, this whole like underground society of goblins, and feel not bad about it at all. It's like, really?
Like, you know, there's a lot of at least Twitter controversy about that too. Is you know, well. I mean,
maybe there should be
the whole colonialism argument. I said the word, but it's basically how I said the word. It does make sense. It's how we treat like goblins is like kind of disposable. You just like, okay, that thing over there is evil. We can just kill it and not feel any remorse. That's kind of how you know, societies in power treated other societies that they felt were, you know, not human. So so you can definitely, it's not wrong. I still enjoy like slaughtering goblins. Like maybe I
still enjoy slaughtering orcs, but
so yeah.
See, I'm not taking a stand on it. I'm just saying it's interesting. That's all I'm saying. It's like
I'm with you. Like I haven't decided yet.
The old modules. So I'm looking up here. I've got the old Keep of the Borderlands, right? And you know, it has this. You know, you go into a cave, and it'll be like there's 10 males, 5 females, and 3 children. It's got hit points for them, and I don't think we thought anything of that in 1980 something playing that, right? Like I think that as I've gotten older, I know for me, one of the weird things that's happened for me is I like combat, but I have found myself less wanton, like just throwing into combat, and even my characters who are fighters tend to, like my new favorite character I play is like we'll try to reason through something. Like, do I really need to kill? Can we make friends with these guys? You know, and sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to smash them, right? You know,
right.
But yeah, you know, it's not just as cut and dry as, like I said, just go into the room, kill everybody. But
yeah, I mean, I think you could play it both ways. If you sometimes it's more fun to play, you know, a deeper, game where everything is a little more gray, and sometimes it's more fun to play something just black and white. And more like a video game. I'm just smash the X button until everything in this room is dead.
Right.
Until all the orcs are dead.
Well, and sometimes it even comes down to, I mean, almost how the GM explains the situation, because we kind of had a moment where a fight broke out and it's roll for initiative, and we thought we were at like a bad guy hideout, and we were at like a TGI Fridays. It's like, everybody just saw you like do what you just did. Like, oh, I didn't know we were at a family restaurant. Sorry.
That was an encore. That was an encore of the Lost.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Are those potato skins?
I sit over here. It's like, there's people here. There are people at all these tables. It's like, oh shoot.
Yeah. Well, you didn't have it on Roll20 as people on those tables.
That's funny.
I would say, don't ever put too many people on a map in Roll20.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Everything.
Oh my gosh, they made so much fun of me. So I have to try to edit sometimes because I'll be doing something in Roll20 and talking, but it's that awful talking when you're doing something and you're not really talking. And so they're in this whole basically like red wedding scene in the end of the first sex, drugs, saving throw story. And it's supposed to be awful. It's like people being stabbed and killed. And of course, I'm trying to move. And I thought, I'm going to make this great map. And I've got like 50, 60 different people. Right? And I'm like, moving, I'm going like, well, they're stabbing them. Yeah, they're getting stabbed. It's just like this dead hand. Because all I'm thinking is, how do I move all these stupid icons? And they started laughing at me like, and they're dying and they're dying. It's just
a lot of our humor comes from like Matt.
Yeah, my incompetence.
I believe I even said poor Matt not too long after his inability to talk about the cube.
Oh yeah. I don't know, cube. Adam, if you saw that or not, but apparently, so I ran an episode where they had to fight gelatinous cubes.
Oh, nice job.
And I've been working on it. But apparently I kept saying gelatless. And it's literally like the third or fourth time I can hear him when I was doing the editing. Tyr goes, "Hey, is anybody going to tell him?" So yeah. But,
on the video, I did a counter, and I think it went up to like 15 times he said it.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Man. So, all right. So, anything else that you've got coming up that you wanted everybody to know about?
Do you have a Patreon or anything? I didn't even look.
No, not yet. We've talked about it, but we haven't started one yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing we have coming up right now, like I said, we've talked about having a Patreon. We just haven't started it yet because whatever. And it's kind of up to this point, we've told people that if they wanted to help support us instead, maybe help support, like, there's this place called Camp Hope, which is in Texas, that helps with like PTSD for former military, stuff like that. Specifically men, that's what Camp Hope does, whereas Camp Shield is specifically for women. Camp Shield gets a little bit less attention for some reason, so you could probably put more focus there. That would be great. So we'll call that, instead of Patreoning us, do that. That'd be great.
If you've got links, send those to Nathan. We can put those in the show notes, right?
Yeah, okay. Definitely. And I know Brian and I are going to Gen Con in the summer, so
we will see you.
I know. I'm really looking forward. I've never been. Like, I grew up in Ohio, and I've never been to Gen Con somehow. But
I've never been either.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. Somehow I talked my wife into letting me go, and I don't know why she agreed to this. So. But so I'm really looking forward to that. Like I said, we're probably going to do some more Delta Green in the summer. I'm not going to run a pre-written scenario. I'm writing one myself. So last time we did Convergence, which was like one of the older ones from like the 90s. And they had a re-release of it, like where they rewrote it for the new rules, which would have been great a year ago because I wouldn't have had to like adapt it on my own, but whatever. So we're going to be running that coming up. And we have Cyborg, should be coming out in a few I don't know. That's editing. So I don't know. It'll be a little bit before I get that one all situated. So I don't want to make promises on when that's going to release. But yeah. So, and that's not going to be on our normal feed. That's going to be on, we created a separate feed for stuff like that called Dork Day Extras. So that way we can kind of keep our main feed as is and then have other things over here. So
it's so you can easily binge listen to Twilight and whatnot without having to skip encore or when the extras pop in and out.
Yeah,
I think that's a really great idea too. Because one of the first podcasts I ever listened to, they do multiple stories, and it's like when you're in the car, you don't have your, you're always right. No, having a nice clean, that sounds right. Have a nice clean stream. I think that's a good design. It's a good design.
Instead of chlamydia, it's so much better if it's a clean stream.
No blood.
Yep. Yeah. My work tests me for that all the time.
Chlamydia? Are you a prostitute?
They don't have to. They just enjoy it.
Sex work is work. You do you, Brian.
It is. It's fine. Yeah. I'm not judging. I just didn't know.
I don't know. I hinted some judging there. There's a tone of better than me, but that's normally there, I guess.
I have that with everybody. It's not just you.
Oh, shit. Well, I had fun. Glad to have you guys on. I don't know when I'm going to get this edited, but
that's fine. Probably by the time you do, we'll have Cyborg coming out, so it's okay.
There we go. But yeah, so it's great. Much success, Brian. I hope your character survives at least 5 more episodes.
Yeah, me too.
And if you die a glorious death.
That's what I've said about every character. I do not care if any of my characters die. I just don't want them to die boring. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be like, oops, you tripped, or hey, you should have slept when you didn't. I don't want it to be one of those little like niche rules that it's like, oh, and you're dead now because of that.
I just wrote down what episode to kill Brian's character with a sniper on. So there you go.
It's like hunting rabbit.
Yep. It's like I want the platoon death, the helicopter flying off as you're getting gunned down kind of death. Like
go out and commission some real music for that.
Yeah. Well, and before we end this, I definitely want to thank you guys. I mean, with us being new to the whole thing, and just you guys are just almost like the welcoming committee, like as far as like Twitter and TTRPGs go. You guys are the friendliest people I think I've ever met in my life. So
thank you.
Yeah,
I really like
awesome.
I like people that are fun to banter with, and you guys banter, and that is like if you can banter, I'll be your best friend. It helps you have a good show. I haven't listened to a whole lot. I listened to a couple, and they're good. But that's how I, Pink Fohawk, I listen to them and banter with them. Best friends. So whatever you guys need, this is not a competition.
He says that.
None of us are getting rich.
Well,
not even if you,
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this too, is I wanted to talk to you guys because like I liked your guys' stuff before, and I'd watched your guys' Twilight 2000 when you guys first had that going, and like and the tutorials, like the rules that you guys were doing, like like that was great, and because I was in the process of like learning the game at that time, and I'm like, all right, let me watch this, so like do
you know what's funny about that is so from just maybe like business side, cut this out, is that consistently. So that's why, even though I'm not going to be able to be an active cast member in some of the stories, I'm going to divert my time on my days off, my off shift days, to going back to working on those tutorials. Those consistently every month are almost, I wouldn't say our most watched, but they are a consistent block of material. Because if you go to the Facebook site, every week there's new people joining the Facebook page. So it's the potential for that community is massive, and people like tutorials and stuff. So
like I hardly ever promote it. Like I promoted a couple of days ago. I hardly ever promote it, and other people are recommending it. And I'll go and check, and there's like every day half our watches on YouTube are his tutorials. It's
So people want to see the rules. So they might not say it all the time, but people want to be able to, like what Nathan said, vision themselves playing.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things, like whenever I've seen it too, where people have asked about like, rules. I've even recommended you guys. I've been like, hey, AARPG does these, blah, blah, blah. You should check it out, So yeah, I mean, it does get recommended a lot, and it's for good reason. I think people do like to see
voice.
that.
It's Matt's voice.
Soothing.
Voice.
Nobody wants to hear me giggle through the rules.
Yeah, I don't have to do a character voice. I just put on my boring. I literally bought the same software I was using at work to do tutorials. Right, so it's just like I'm comfortable with it. Nathan doesn't like it, but I use it. But it allows me to just not worry that I'm like, okay, roll your dice. so whatever.
Well, yeah. Anyway, voice thing. That's a whole other separate conversation.
Voice act. Yeah.
No. When we first started doing this, I had to like do so many takes of starting because I started doing like, "Hi, I'm Adam from," and it was like the like sweaty balls skit from SNL, where I was doing like Jeremy was like, "Why are you doing like you're on fresh air? You're not on fresh air. Just fucking talk."
Before we go, my strategy when I run was basically because we get on and we start talking and bantering, talk about our week a day, and I would not start the show until it kind of went off the deep end. Like,
yeah, we've gotten to that point. Yeah,
once everybody's like laughing, and then okay, we're gonna start now, and that's what we started doing, and it made everything so much fun, but I couldn't do the intros. I had to retake the intros like so many times as I couldn't say like AARPG podcast. I like screwed that up. But anyway, I'd probably cut all this shit out because it's boring,
that's fine. That's fine. I was like, no one else is going to care about this part.
No, this is inside baseball now.
Yeah, this happened in our last interview. It turned into like it was really rambled. So, but that's okay. Well, thank you for coming on. Yeah, this was definitely, I was excited. I told Nathan, I got a message from them. Let's get them on. I think it's important. I mean, I think there's a lot of folks out there. A lot of us started these as COVID sanity, but I think a lot of us love playing games. We love sharing our stories. And I just think, there's enough other stuff going on that being positive is the way to go.
Exactly. And that was the thing I wanted to talk with you guys because I like nerding out with people. And I was like, these seemed like good people to nerd out with. So, yeah.
Yeah, whenever you want, just call Nathan. He'll love to talk about Starfinder. I love Starfinder. He hates Starfinder.
I ran it for 4 years. I like things about it, and there's things I don't like about it. That's where I'll leave it. But yeah.
It's probably just Matt running it. He probably just ran it.
Probably just Matt. I'm going to unplug my mic now. I'm going home.
Switch back over to the one on the camera.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody, or watching. I know watching us is like the 4 sexiest men you could probably watch on a Tuesday night. So appreciate everybody, and we'll see you soon. We'll be back with some more Between Two GMs soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.